Raiding the Kingdom, episode 145, an emergency episode, as you all know why. Getsy the F out of here. I know, clever, right?
If that's not a good dad joke, I don't know what is.
Yeah, my wife was definitely amused by that one. So
that's good. Good old knee slapper, man. Good old knee slapper.
That's it. I have to be a little more creative around here. So, Coach and I are joining you guys tonight because the Raiders, this must be nice for you. You're getting ready for the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, there's a little bit of negative news for you with old Jackson Mahomes Sr. riding dirty down the highway in Texas.
Didn't kill anybody.
Not
going to jail for. I think it's a felony at this point because it's his third. But nonetheless, they'll get it figured out. I'm sure it'll get dropped. But he didn't kill anybody, so we're good.
So
beat
good.
the Raiders
and
again
it's not
on
your
that.
Quarterback. Not your quarterback got the DUI, so there you go.
That's not going to be a distraction of Patrick Mahomes. He's got to deal with Jackson, so that ain't nothing.
Right.
But yeah, we just landed in Vegas not that long ago. I don't know when we're going to your practice facility to start practicing. Probably tomorrow after media day.
Knock it off. Enough.
And yeah, I don't. They probably got one side of the room there for your Luke Getsy. When are they doing the interview with him or the introduction?
So I don't think it's not an official signing yet. Like, pen has not been put to paper. But as we all thought that Kliff Kingsbury was going to be the offensive coordinator for the Las Vegas Raiders for 2024, from what we've heard and from a few of the Raiders beat writers who jumped on the news well after the fact, that there was an impasse in contract negotiations. So he still owed a considerable sum from the Cardinals. There's some dispute. I'm wondering if they wanted to, like, hey, you're already getting paid by this organization. Why should we give you, if you're getting 20 from them, why are we going to give you 10, 15, 12, whatever?
That's ultimately why, more so than this, but I think that's ultimately why you ended up with Pierce and even talk to Harbaugh or anyone else, is because you're paying Chucky and you're paying McDaniel, so you have to. I don't think they've released Antonio Pierce's contract figures yet. He deserves to be the coach, but I'm saying that I think there's probably a little bit to do with that. I know Kliff Kingsbury, I think, just officially got announced as the offensive coordinator for Dan Quinn as the commander. There's some implications on that long term for maybe that franchise too that we can talk about at some point. But yeah, it's interesting. I think Getsy, that takes you out of the running for Fields most likely, which is
I'm glad you didn't call it the Justin Fields sweepstakes, because some people are calling it that. Not a sweepstakes by any stretch of the word.
You're not a huge Fields fan. I like him a little bit more. I got a lot riding on him, Dynasty League wise, in my fantasy. Also have a number 2 pick, but that's besides the point. I think Fields, with the right offensive coordinator, has the skill set to be a very good dual threat quarterback. I think he's got some intangibles. He had some good games last year. I know his overall resume isn't great, but there's been a lot of
it's definitely not great.
Yeah, no, it's not great. I'm not arguing that fact. I just think that, the situation he was in Chicago wasn't great, but Luke Getsy coming to the Raiders makes me think, what are his ideas quarterback wise? Good with rushing offense, but gotta have a QB. So who knows?
So, my take on it is a lot of people are saying, oh, great, what's Davante Adams going to think? He wanted this dynamic offensive coordinator. Davante Adams supposedly was part of the influence to bring him back to the Green Bay Packers. So he was with the Packers with Big Mike. Big Mike was fired. They brought in Matt LaFleur, excuse me. Mike is in LA. They brought in Matt LaFleur. After one season, they convinced Rodgers and Davante Adams supposedly convinced LaFleur to bring Getsy back into the fold, passing game coordinator / QB's coach. And in 2019, they had a pretty successful offense. That was another year with the NFC Championship with the 49ers, and all that didn't really work out. So I think that if we were, and I think I said this on Twitter, if we were getting Getsy directly from the Packers. You just said, oh, he just worked with Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. Davante Adams now Raider, perfect fit, great. But no, he then was eventually released by the Packers. Went to Mississippi State supposedly for a little trial run, or actually that might have been the other. No, that was the other break. That was the first break after Mike. Then he went with LaFleur to Green Bay. Then he went to the Bears. He did 2 seasons with Justin Fields for Fields' second and third seasons. Obviously, just not great. And the popular opinion on Raider Nation and Raiders Twitter and social media that you probably saw is that he's from the Shanahan tree. No, he's not. If you watch the Bears at all, why would you? Because they weren't fun to watch. But obviously, a lot of RPOs, a lot of with Justin Fields, obviously a lot of read options, a lot of shotgun, empty, spread offense. So while they said that they think the Raiders, wanted a vertical passing game, that's why I was a little confused that we went with Getsy, because I don't think we would describe the Bears as having a vertical passing game per se last year. They did what they're going to do.
DJ Moore did his thing. I mean, I don't think they were terrible. I think we automatically associate the Bears with just absolute garbage, for lack of a better term. They obviously finished their season a little bit better than most people were expecting, but yeah, I mean, they obviously had the number 1 pick last year. They traded it. They would have ended with they would have had the 9th pick this year. And they have the 9th pick. I'm just saying that, like, if they didn't also have the 1st pick from Carolina, they would have had the 9th pick. So obviously an improvement from being the worst team in the NFL to, having the 9th pick in the draft. So that's an improvement. But yeah, I think it's just like the Eberflus thing. They didn't really have before, Moore came over. Who was their best offensive weapon?
It was Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney was their guy.
I mean, Montgomery was their best, and then he left.
Yeah, but I'm saying the plan was Darnell Mooney was going to be the wide receiver 1, and then they went out and got DJ Moore, and their running game wasn't anything terrible. So there's some potential there, but it's also not even the same Shanahan like wide zone running scheme. It's completely different. So we could dispel that rumor here on the show that it's not. He might have had some Shanahan influence from Matt LaFleur, who is a true Shanahan disciple, so to speak. McVay to Shanahan, all that stuff. But it's a different system. But like you said, there's glimpses of hope in certain things that you watch with the Bears. That's why Bears fans are also optimistic this year. But it's just going from, I think everyone was hopeful with Zach Robinson, then Kliff Kingsbury, and you're like, all right, not great, but not bad, as long as it's not like Luke Getsy or Chip Kelly or something. And then here we go. So yeah, it's just a real sudden turn of events. And it's kind of like people are, they think that, which I think you could hold on. We had a comment here from one of our regulars, Aaron Jensen. This is a loaded coaching staff. Getsy will be just fine.
Yeah, I don't think they're necessarily
loaded, Aaron. I don't know.
Well, you got Marvin Lewis in there now as the assistant head coach. To be honest, I don't know what's going to make you happy. I don't know what's going to make you happy.
What's going to make me happy. Number 5.
Yes, Mr. Daniels, offensive coordinator. I mean,
if it was Eric Bieniemy, dude, I would have been happy. I would have been happy with Eric Bieniemy.
So I mean, I'm on a different level. I've been in this. My team's been in the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. So is Matt Nagy the greatest offensive coordinator of all time? Absolutely not. Came from Chicago too, right?
But who's he working with?
Chicago was garbage. Is back. I think he obviously has some reins over the offense. I think it's obviously mostly Reed, but nonetheless, give Matt Nagy his props. He's got them playing a lot better than they were earlier in the season. They got the right rotation and receivers and everything like that. But what I'm saying is it a lot of it I think really just comes down to the head coach. Raiders are they're going to be a very good defensive team, and you need to have a competent offense. I think Getsy can get you a competent offense. It really just depends on what you do quarterback wise. Are you going to have a pocket presence where you're going to stand in the pocket, throw the ball, get it to Devontae, get it to your weapons, get it to Michael Mayer, get it to these guys that you have currently, because I think you have a good wide receiver, tight end group. Obviously, you can play in the draft and in free agency and bring some more pieces in. Or you're going to have more of a dynamic dual threat quarterback like your McDaniels, which I don't think fits with what Getsy does. So who like I said, we have all offseason to talk about where the Raiders are going to go quarterback wise, if they're going to stick with Aiden O'Connell and just try and load them up with weapons, build the offensive line better, I mean, I think you obviously got White, and I think Jacobs would be gone. But like I said, we had a good receiver group. We have good tight end group. Let's just get him some more weapons and just give him another shot from start to finish. I don't know, but I think it starts from the top. You have a good coach in Antonio Pierce. This will be his first real test. And you got Marvin Lewis there to help mentor him. And Marvin Lewis.
And supposedly Hugh Jackson, who has had his share of quarterback, we'll say, quarterback campaigns.
So Luke Getsy becomes the Doak and White guy on the staff. So it's all good. I mean, they're gonna be fine. But I don't. I think it all depends on the quarterback, and Getsy's good with the running backs, and you got White, and you got, like I said, I don't think Jacobs will be there, but you'll probably draft someone else, and you'll be all right.
Well, there's a lot of ways to look at it too. So clear things didn't really work out with his, he had and you could say that Fields' style of play is, somewhat similar to Daniels. I wouldn't say they're like opposite style quarterbacks. So
they're very similar.
So is Getsy going to do well with another young, because obviously Daniels isn't fresh out the gate ready to rock. I just think his potential is very high. But that's also what we all thought about Justin Fields, and maybe his potential is still high. It just hasn't really shown in the last couple of years, or what his ceiling is perhaps. So are they going to think maybe Getsy needs to swing with a veteran quarterback, and they're going to go and spend a ton of money and lure your friend Kirk Cousins away from Minnesota because Getsy has worked with you like that, with an aged veteran in the past with Aaron Rodgers. So who knows? Coach, we got a loaded question that I think you've kind of already answered, but also has some draft implication questions there. I'll take whatever Raiders thing we got. Just an observation, but now with KK, that's interesting. I'm glad there wasn't an additional K on there. Kliff Kingsbury, I think you mean Scott, in Washington, and them holding the second overall pick. Could this mean Williams is going there now? And with Getsy in Las Vegas now, could that mean a trade for Fields maybe in the works with the Bears to Las Vegas to reunite them? And also with Devontae Adams, played for a couple seasons in Green Bay. That would leave the Bears at the first overall to select with J.D. Mays. Kliff Kingsbury and Caleb Williams definitely are tied to the hip, in my opinion. So, Coach, you take the second half of that. I'm just going to say there's no way Justin Fields is going to Las Vegas. Getsy couldn't fix him there. He's not going to fix him over here. I'm not going to put 100% stamp on it, but I do not see I don't think, and Justin Fields won't really have a choice in the matter at this stage in his career, but he's not going to get to move. He's not going to want to move over to the same guy he was tied with in Chicago. And they fired Getsy, saying he is the one to blame for the demise.
So I'll answer both sides. I don't totally think there's like the possibility of Fields going to Vegas. I don't think is completely out of the question. I don't know. We don't know what happened.
Check out for one second, Coach.
Eberflus obviously got gifted Justin Fields, right? He's still the head coach. We don't really know if that is what is the guy he wanted. And, they weren't playing well. They weren't on the same page. I don't put all that on Getsy. I think some of that could have something to do with Eberflus too. So I don't know. That's a tough answer. I think that there is a possibility because there's rumors out there. Obviously, that's part of the reason why you probably asked the question. So I don't think that those are totally just out of the blue. And I think with Kliff Kingsbury, actually was just talking about this with Brennan earlier today about how I think it's inevitable that the Washington will trade up with the Bears, and it'll just be a one pick switch for the Bears. It might give them the opportunity to keep Fields one more year. I think a lot of it comes down to that 5th-year option and maybe re-signing him to the long-term deal because, Baker Mayfield's about to get $40 million plus a year. Are they going to want to pay Fields that? Don't really know, but I think Williams headlining in Washington makes a lot of sense. Brand new owner trying to get rid of the whole, Dan Snyder era. and having like a bright face with all the hype as your new quarterback. He went to high school in DC, went to Gonzaga, and I think would bring a lot of attention and the potential. That NFC East we know is crazy. Or yeah, the NFC East. What am I talking about? Is crazy. And just an old school division of football. And I think getting Williams would be a splashy move. And I think it would. My idea for a pick for a trade, which I told Brendan, was this. I would say Washington trades the second pick. Okay, they're going to trade their second rounder they got from the Bears for Montez Sweat. They're going to trade a first rounder next year and probably a third, maybe even throw in a Terry McLaurin. Who knows?
Ooh, get rid of
right.
Terry.
That would spice it up. You have Terry McLaurin, potentially Marvin Harrison Jr., DJ Moore, Cole Kmet. That's a very good offense for Justin Fields.
And then Getsy might want to go back to Chicago after that one.
Yeah. So, but yeah, man, I 1000% agree with you, sir. I think that is a very likely thing with Kliff Kingsbury going to be the offense of coordinator in DC that Williams ends up there. It's not ending up in Vegas now. I can guarantee that.
Yeah. So Fields not to Vegas, but what Coach and I talked about, and I think I had sent him a mock draft I had seen, which we'll break down in our later episodes. This is more about Mr. Getsy here, but we did see that trade happening. May going to the Patriots at 4, and then kind of a run on some of the
3.
top receivers maybe after that. Yeah, 3, excuse me. Yeah, and then the Cardinals, Chargers at 4 and 5, and then the Raiders trading up to 6 for my boy, Jaden Daniels. Yes. But Coach doesn't think that's a reality. We had a couple more comments, questions. Christopher Richmond, if you look at his history before the Bears, he's got potential, plus Devontae likes him. Yes, I think Devontae Adams liking Luke Getsy and being familiar with him and obviously having a huge numbers with him as the passing coordinator / QB coach could be alluring. Got another longer one from Scott here. Scott, you are really hitting the keyboard tonight. He'll have totally different personnel in Las Vegas too. Everyone hating on his hires only based on what he did with an absolute dumpster fire of talent. Yep, I agree with that on the Bears offense side of the ball with one, if not the worst offensive line in football. Yeah, I can see that. No offensive coordinator could do much with what he had to work with the last couple of seasons. Yeah, but, unfortunately, Scott, when these kind of things happen, somebody has to, unfortunately, eat the blame. And it seems at this point their organization opted to blame Getsy instead of Justin Fields. I personally have a difference of opinion with that whole thing. So, and like Eric and I talked about earlier, we're going to see this year, and the last couple of years, everyone got to kind of feel it out. Was it Belichick or was it Tom Brady? Who was the one responsible for all the success? Can the two, function without each other? Yes, Brady obviously won a ring without him. Belichick struggling and now, left of his own accord in New England. So I think it's not as big a deal because neither of them have had any real success. But will Fields thrive without Getsy, and vice versa? Will Getsy thrive without Fields when he's in Vegas? So we'll kind of get a more idea of maybe who was to blame in Chicago. Yes.
But I agree with you on the Chicago was a dumpster fire. No one really could have been successful there until, and they said the last half of the season they played a lot better, and Fields played a lot better, and they seem to get it together. So I think you got to give Getsy a chance. At least give him half the season to depending on what he's working with, what he can do.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. This is the reality of the hire now. So we kind of just have to see what it is. But as Coach mentioned, it does have, and I think some of our people in the comments mentioned, this does have big implications on the draft, and free agency kicks off in March. So some future moves there. And as time goes on, we're going to get a little bit more clear as things go on. And for kind of a timetable reference, the Panthers made their big trade with the Bears last year. I think it was like March 10th. So obviously we're at February 4th. We got a little bit of time. Senior Bowl just ended. Pro Bowl, if anyone watched that. But now we've got the Super Bowl and then what follows. So we'll start to see some more moves that will kind of give us more of an idea to define what's going to happen in April with the draft. And Daniel Davidson punched in and said, bring back Versace as OC. I think you mean Bisaccia. I say this because the amount of respect the team had for him while he was with the Raiders. I'm not sure bringing a special teams coordinator, although Bisaccia, everyone did like him. I would almost see him more as like an assistant head coach or back with special teams. The offense did fine under him. It wasn't anything groundbreaking. They did make it to the playoffs, so I'll give him that. But
yeah, and I would think Bisaccia has got a little bit of a FU towards Mr. Davis. For how he handled everything,
especially with Antonio Pierce getting to retain the
you learn from your from your mistakes, obviously, but it'd be interesting to kind of look at it from a half what is it, glass half full type mentality. Is like, where would the Raiders be right now if you never had McDaniels? You never know. So I mean, you can't.
Derek Carr could still be a Raider for all we know. Who knows?
I think things would be a lot different. I think McDaniels set you guys back a couple years, but onward and upward. And you got Getsy, you got to roll with them. My thing is like, let's not bring in. I'm glad we agree, Daniel. You just agreed with the Chiefs fans, no big deal. But I think you got to give Getsy a chance, and don't bring the negativity in already. See how the offseason plays out. I
clearly brought the negativity in based on the name of the episode.
It brings ears to the episode to hear what we're gonna say.
But I ask you this: were you or were you not laughing when you saw that Luke Getsy? Did it strike fear as a Chiefs fan? Did it strike fear in your heart that the Raiders?
I was laughing because how much you didn't want it to happen, and how I told you it was going to happen, especially after the Kliff Kingsbury thing fell through. Our
defense, you told me Tom Telesco was going to be the general manager. You called that as well.
Things are just,
Coach, just tell him the future over here.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
we're going to go full on Jimmy Garoppolo next year. Yep.
No, Jimmy G better be out the door.
Yeah, no, he's long.
All right, and I don't want to see Russell Wilson or anything like that. So we're going to talk free agency and all that stuff coming up, but we just want to break it down real quick, dispel a couple of rumors out there. So those of you defending the move, saying we got, because Clint Kubiak, was also a possibility. They did not wait. I thought they were going to wait for the Super Bowl at this point, see how the 49ers go, and then maybe give him a chance. And obviously anyone wants, it's like Shanahan tree. And the McVays and all them. That's who people are after. So I was kind of shocked they didn't go with Clint Kubiak.
Well, I know we're about to be done, but let's say we give us a couple minutes just to discuss this real quick before and anybody in the comments can. Thank you, sir. What is everyone's opinion on Eric Bieniemy and why he's not getting other opportunities? Didn't even get, a chance to, it looks like to speak with the Raiders about, other than maybe brief calls for OC, and no head coaching opportunities. Like, what do you think has happened with Bieniemy? What do you think the reason is? I think he just can't interview. I think that overwhelms him for some reason. I don't know what's going on, but for as much as people thought he was the next big thing, he can't seem to land a job.
Right. So I would think that initially it's, Washington struggled this year. The offense did really bad. Sam Howell wasn't great. I honestly thought he had flashes he got sacked more than I think like David Carr did when he was in his first year with the Texans, which was like, he led the league in quarterback sacks. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think you can blame. And Bieniemy had him playing pretty good for the first half of the season, and then all those sacks and stuff caught up to him. So Bieniemy, I don't think.
But you're right, though. The opportunities didn't come before Washington. So clearly something is going on with his interviews. Either they're giving too much credit to Reed, to Mahomes. I think you can make the same argument with Bieniemy with Getsy. Like, hey, he stunk in Chicago. Why would we want him? Hey, he stunk in Washington. Why would you want him? Well, my argument is that he has a winning history.
The pedigree's there.
The pedigree's there. We want winners in the building, and one of the reasons we like Antonio Pierce so much is he did his thing with the Giants, so he at least understands and has been part of that culture, which is the argument. We also thought that Josh McDaniels came from a winning culture, and how did that work? Daniel Davidson, he thinks that Eric Bieniemy's people skills suck, and he is too straightforward in his approach. Usually, a straightforward approach is good, and I think in football sometimes you need to hear the truth, rather than, especially with these guys, some of which can be divas and such. You need to hear the truth and the reality of it. Some owners may not like that. You could be right there, Daniel. So who knows? But yeah, I mean, that's what I think is. I think they just kind of give everyone else the success for Bieniemy or for the Chiefs, and they don't give it to Bieniemy, and that's where we're at.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why he's not getting a.
Yeah, I don't. No OC jobs are open.
McDummy sucks. He was trash in Denver. Give Getsy a fair shake. We're giving him a fair shake. We're just breaking down the public's reaction, our initial reaction. And
if you guys haven't figured out, Brennan is very anti-Chicago Bears. Everything he gets that from his brother, who's a big Packers fan.
I do. That's true.
He's just he's just a very upset Raiders fan because yes, you guys beat us on Christmas. Congratulations for
I'm not celebrating it anymore. You're in the Super Bowl in my stadium.
In your stadium,
our listeners like celebrate it, yeah. Which is fair, but so I am very anti-Chicago. Luke Getsy is a part of that. Sorry. Like I said, if he came right from Green Bay, who looked pretty decent in the playoffs, I'd be a little more excited about it. I'm just not. So that's what it is. I'm not excited about it, but he is the offensive coordinator, so we're going to deal with it. Also, definitely no personal bias. Coach, I think this was before you got with the show, but we were in talks with the Packers, and Luke Getsy was going to come on the show. This is when he was, because when the Packers used to be represented on Raiding the Kingdom, which was then Send It Podcast. And we had a plan going forward, and I don't know if it's his fault, but Luke Getsy ended up not coming on the show, and their media representative gave me kind of a half ASS answer as to why it wasn't happening. And we had a schedule and all.
This is the reason.
I may be a little background upset that Luke Getsy is supposed to go on the show. So, I mean, if he wants to come on now and make amends, but he probably won't after he sees the title for this. So that is what it is. But yes, Luke Getsy is the offensive coordinator. I've said it about everybody else because I obviously didn't like, and I'm also, as Coach and I are both very anti-New England, didn't want anyone from there over here. You can solve any of my my doubtful statements with winning. So if you win, we're friends. If you don't, we're not. That's kind of how I have to operate as a Raiders fan. And we don't win often. So that's how that's going to go. So I think we are good for the night. That is kind of my take on the Luke Getsy thing. Coach is here just to watch, everything's fine. Just watch the Flames. But hopefully things go better for us. But we'll see where everything kicks off. We got an exciting week coming up with you guys for Coach and his Super Bowl pursuit and his guest coming up. And that's going to be a tune in this week for some more live streams and such, and Super Bowl coming up.
Yeah. And for your last minute ticket deals for the Super Bowl, if you want to go and spend, 6 months of your mortgages on one ticket in the upper bowl, use promo code RTK at SeatGeek. Get those Super Bowl bets in. I know Brendan's going to share a prop bet if he hasn't already done it for Underdog, excuse me. Promo code RTK. Donate $100. They'll match that $100. Go win yourself some money. Make the Super Bowl worthwhile. Obviously, you're going to be at parties and doing stuff. There's just fun prop bets and stuff and whatnot. So enjoy that. And we'll talk to you later this week.
That's it. Oh, wait. We have one more comment before we go. Be well, gentlemen. Thanks for the entertainment. Aaron, appreciate that, dude.
Appreciate you, man.
Tune in the future, please.